In this episode of The Retirement Spy, Duncan and Larry Connolly discuss the transition from a corporate career to retirement, focusing on the joys and challenges of horse racing syndication, which has landed Larry 2 horses in the Kentucky Derby. Larry shares his journey from being a CEO, becoming an active participant in horse racing, detailing the intricacies of buying racehorses, the excitement of race day, and the emotional highs and lows of being a horse owner. The conversation also touches on the importance of finding purpose in retirement and the unique experience that comes with horse racing. Welcome to this week's episode of The Retirement Spy, where we share experiences in a collaborative manner so that you can enjoy phase 2 in your life and are ready to embrace this chapter with gusto and an attitude of carpe diem. You can find out more about us at www.theretirementspy.com or sending us an email below. Today, I'm proud to have my friend Larry Connolly, who will talk to us about equestrian habits in phase 2. Larry, welcome to The Retirement Spy. I'd love if you would just kind of share about your phase 1 background and as a perspective for our listeners, what you did then, your job career, so to speak, when you retired, and a little bit about your life for us to have a perspective.
Okay. Well, I was the CEO of Connolly LLC for 20 years, practiced in the payment integrity space. We would find money. We would audit large companies who paid a lot of bills with complex terms and conditions and look for overpayments. Our roots were in retail, but then in the mid to late 90s, we got into healthcare and we were first to market, and there's a huge first to market advantage. So we got a lot of market share with commercial healthcare payers and enjoyed nice growth such that we eventually caught the eye of a private equity group, and we had a process and ultimately a sale. And we sold the company back in 2012. And I've been in phase 2 not too long afterwards. I had a transition period, but then 2013, mostly participated in board work. I was on the board at Connolly, now doing business as Cotivity. They went public in 2017, so I was on the board of that. I started a foundation, which we look for nice ways to distribute money with the theme of children in poverty. And then also joined a couple other nonprofit boards. I was the board chair of Cure Childhood Cancer and the Georgia Prevention Project, as well as I re-engaged with my alma mater, Washington and Lee, served on several academic advisory boards, which ultimately led to me joining trustee, and did that for 8 years, including an interesting time living through whether we should rename the school or not. But along the way, I kind of got involved in horse racing almost by accident. To step back, I went to Rye High School in Rye, New York. And as a result, I was no stranger to beautiful Belmont Park or Saratoga. But admittedly, I would attend with my friends for laughs and giggles and, mostly social and horse racing secondary. In the 90s, we did business in the UK. And a good friend of mine, Lawrence Kenny, here in Atlanta, encouraged me to attend the Cheltenham Festival, which is like the Breeders' Cup or steeplechase in Europe, which is as important, if not more important, than flat racing. And it's in Cheltenham in the Cotswolds in March, and 65,000 fans. Everyone's well-dressed and knowledgeable of the sport. It was so much fun. I decided to go do it again and again and again. And then eventually, we're there. Wouldn't it be nice if we could pool our limited resources and buy a horse and have it run at Cheltenham? Well, that never really happened. And then we got back and family and work got in the way. But when we sold the company, my good friend Keith Mason organized a trip to Saratoga for the Travers, which is the feature summer race. And we were backside one morning, and he said, I'm at a point in life where I might want to join a syndicate.
That's Keith.
Keith. And I'm there. That's a damn good idea. So Keith joined Donegal Racing through an acquaintance of his, and I tagged along. And sure enough, we experienced beginner's luck. And our first class of horses, of which there were 8, one of them included a horse called Keen Ice, who in 2015 ran in the Derby and 3rd in the Belmont, 2nd in the Grade 1 Haskell. And he beaten each time by American Pharoah. But at the Travers, we had some good racing luck that day. By golly, Keen Ice ran down American Pharoah and nipped him at the wire. And I've been addicted ever since then. The endorphin release when that horse crossed the finish line first I've never quite experienced something like that ever again, but it was unbelievable and very addictive.
Experience. As a part of this, was this the love of horses is one thing, but you and Keith were in there really learning about syndication, right?
Yes. I was involved as when you're a member of a syndicate, you're not making a lot of business decisions. You're following, the portfolio, so to speak, of horses that you buy. But as I became more and more knowledgeable just by consistent exposure, I joined another syndicate called Starlight, and they've had great success. They won a Derby, they won a Preakness, they won a Breeders' Cup. They've been in the winner's circle lots and lots. But again, you're not making any real decisions. You're following your team. After, 5+ years of being a member of Donegal, we got to meet a bloodstock team called Oracle Bloodstock, Connor Foley and his partner, Jim Hatchett. And they're two great guys. They're a little bit of Mutt and Jeff. Connor at the time was in his mid-30s, and Jim at the time was in his late 60s, but together they made a great team, and they have a great process for evaluating horses. Keith Mason and I said, these guys actually know what they're doing, such that we could approach our golf buddies in Atlanta to join the syndicate, and we can start our own syndicate, because Atlanta is definitely an underserved market. And there's no way my golf buddies wouldn't enjoy the experience as much as we do. And so, at any rate, in 2019, we started West Paces Racing. It's kind of nice. I'm never going to be able to own a Major League Baseball team. That's just not going to happen. But by being involved in horse racing, we're racing at Keeneland, we're racing at Saratoga, we're racing at Belmont, we're racing at Gulfstream, and winning at all these places. And we're competing against the who's trainers of the business. Admittedly, success, you're lucky if you win 20% of the time. So there's a lot of disappointment, but when it goes right, it's a feeling you can't duplicate. As a matter of fact, we owned Dornick last year, who won the Belmont, and one of our partners was Jason Worth, former baseball player, MVP. And he said this is the only thing he has done since he's retired that comes anywhere close to the exhilaration and thrill of winning a playoff game or a World Series game. So,
there's a lot to be said for that. I've got friends of mine who did the NFL, and they said they missed Sunday afternoon, the roar of the fans going out on the field. I can't even imagine what the winning was like if you won a World Series and what that means. But the rush, and I think you're underselling yourself a little bit. You had 2 contestants in last year's Derby, did you not?
We did. We had a very good year last year.
You did have a great year. So interesting. Tell us a little bit about syndication. You and Keith got involved in it, and you've run a dynasty, a business. How is a horse syndication like a business or unlike a business as it relates to everything that you've got to do? There's one side raising the money. Okay, easy enough. I say easy enough. It's not easy. But then you've got to go through the business of horse racing.
Yes. So again, I must compliment first Jerry Crawford, who is the general partner of Donegal. He's been very helpful, as has Jack Wolf, the general partner of Starlight Racing. Everyone knows the sport could use a little help, and rather than being resentful that we went our separate ways, they could not have been more helpful in helping us get up and going, some basic do's and don'ts. But Keith and I, being students of the business and observing how our syndicate worked, or Donegal worked, we kind of figured, we knew what we had to do. You raise X money, Y is going to go to horses, Z for overhead. You have a contingency, and you manage to that. But most people, when they do their capital call, it's for 1 year's worth of racing expenses, which at a full share is about $50,000-$60,000 a horse, trainer, vet, transportation being the largest line items. So it's not cheap. So at some point, the horse has got to pay for itself. Sometimes they sneeze and they get hurt. So that can be frustrating. But, I was at Saratoga for the Belmont. I was 4th of July. We had 3 runners. I was at the beach, but it was really super fun to watch. We've gotten to know our trainers real well. It's just a great experience. You never run out of things to talk about, speculate about. My biggest sell to prospective partners is, well, first of all, from a financial end, it's kind of like a BC. 1 or 2 out of the 10 are going to pan out, you hope. But it provides endless intellectual stimulation of learning all about it. It's something you can do as an empty nesting couple. My wife loves it, maybe not quite as much as I do, but the dressing up makes up for anything she might
She
not.
loves the fanfare.
Oh, she does. She does. And my adult children do as well. And when we go to the Derby or have a weekend up at Saratoga, the wife and kids, the job. Okay, as soon as you get over that, you never run out of anything to talk about. You handicap together. It's just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And when you lose together and you win together, it's just a great experience. And most of the places we go to, Keeneland, Saratoga, Gulfstream, Santa Anita, Delmar, a very vibrant nightlife, post-racing scene. Perhaps the best part is going to the barns first thing in the morning, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and which is like 10:30 their time, and seeing all the horses and the horsemen at the rail working out their horses, then going back to the barns, feeding them peppermints. And I don't know why it's so therapeutic, but it is. And it's just.
So let me pause you for a second because I want to ask you about race day and what that means. But I'm fascinating. You've raised your money for the syndication. You've got to put your team together. So you've got your trainer, you've got your team. Tell me about buying a horse. And let's talk about horse 101 here. Knowing nothing about horses, where are you going to buy the horses? What kind of horses are you buying? Because all horses are not created equal. And what are you looking for when you go through this process?
Okay, well, here's the good news. I am not the one picking out the horses. I have tried to learn, and I probably have a better eye than you. But at this stage, I'm probably more qualified to say not that one than to say that's the one we want to go after.
Well, this is why you hire good people. You get good people who know what they're doing.
Yes. Back to Oracle Bloodstock again. A lot of faith and confidence in their eye and process. And they do have a process. So we buy most of our yearlings in the September Keeneland sale. I would say at least 80, 85, 90% of our horses are purchased during a 2-week period in September every year. And it's hard because, first of all, yearling in September is kind of like buying an 8th grader and trying to figure out what track event it's going to run in and what it's going to look like as a senior college athlete or, early in their NFL career.
I put so many metaphors on this. Sorry for my legal friends who are attorneys. This is like getting an 8th grader and seeing if they're going to go to Harvard and actually be a partner at your law firm. And you got to hire them in 8th grade, by the way.
Yes. Yes. Well, only 3%. So there are roughly 17,500 foals sold, or foals last year. 3% are going to win a graded stakes race. 0.1% are going to win a grade 1. And if you want to have value as a sire, you got to win a couple of grade 1s.
So is this really just looking for the genetics? You're going for the breeding. I know that's a large part of it, but it's beyond that.
Well, you're looking at several things. Imagine a bunch of 8th graders walking around a gym, 20 at a time, and you're gonna, these kids want to run track and field later on. So you're trying to think, okay, is that a sprinter, 880 guy, 440 guy, miler? Do they walk in an athletic manner? I'm quoting someone. I didn't make this up. There are no walking races, but if a horse can't walk athletically, it has no chance on the track.
It's tried and true. I mean, that's been tested time over time, I imagine.
Yes. So Connor's system is he looks how the horse looks first and then looks at the pedigree. So you want an athletic walk. you want a confirmation that that body, when you fast forward into senior in high school, college, is that someone who can run their conference championships or the NCAA championships? And the only thing you can really do is, did your brother or sister run track? Did your parents run track?
It's kind of like all the boosters at UGA who are 8th graders right now looking for the star quarterback in
Yes.
5 years from now. It's the exact same thing, and already recruiting in 8th grade.
Yes. And I must admit, at these sales, again, we're looking for 3%. It's easy to eliminate than to say that this is the one. And, it doesn't speak to their mental fortitude or anything like that. Some horses have all the ability in the world, but they can care less about horse racing. They don't have the competitive gene. Dornick was
So
a very
let's go to this, because this is a great story. You had 2 horses in the Derby 2 years ago. Talk about them, and in particular, I know where you're going with Dornick. Wow, this is a great story.
So Dornick is a good magic. And we are a money ball outfit. So we are trying to find we West Paces Racing. So we're trying to find the new upcoming sire, because if we bought an Into Mischief offspring, we're going to have to pay an arm and a leg for it, but we can't afford. And if someone likes the horse that is much better funded than we are, we're going to get outbid. So we're kind of looking for the diamond in the rough. And Oracle had their eye on Good Magic as a young sire, and Good Magic now is a very established sire. So Good Magic had a child with Puka, who was a Donegal horse, by the way, the same year as Keen Ice. And that child, when we bought Dornick, was a 2-year-old, and it hadn't run yet. Well, that horse, called Mage, ended up winning the Kentucky Derby. So we bought a full brother, same sire, same broodmare, as a Kentucky Derby winner. And so we really liked the horse, and we bought it in book 1. And back at the Keeneland sale, it's like the NFL draft. Each book is like a different round, and the average price per horse is much higher round 1 than it is round 6.
Give me an example of what a horse price is round 1 versus round 6.
The average price?
Yes. Roundabout, just for the listeners to get perspective. Okay.
But there will be a number of $1 million plus horses in book 1. Book 1 will have approximately 400, 500 horses sold,
and going for an average of 400,000 to 500,000 each
on average. But you got to look at the average. You got to look at the median, because a few big price horses can trickle down to the others.
Well, so this goes to the audience that you're playing with too. I imagine you've got some Saudi families. You've got you've got big money.
Everybody's there.
Everybody who's got money can afford this is there, because this is a wonderful hobby.
So one year we bid, I think, on 10 horses in a row and lost, which is disheartening. Now, we're used to losing, but 10 in a row. But we were losing to a guy named Bob Baffert. We were losing to
the royalty. Yeah, the royalty.
We were losing to an Irish billionaire. So it really gave me confidence that, damn, these guys really do know what they're doing, because they all kind of look nice, to the uninformed eye. They're all beautiful animals. But any rate, we're not going to get them all. We don't have the budget to get them all. We just need to get a few good ones. And indeed, we were lucky on Dornick. And Dornick, his mental fortitude was unbelievable. And we got lucky. There's no way you can tell that the horse does not like to be passed.
Tell the story. There was one race in particular, because I remember we were all excited when we were saying that Dornick did something interesting at the end that you can't breed into. You can't, the race, you'll be able to remember it. But
well, he did it 3 times.
Came from behind and had a competitive.
Passed.
Yes.
He got the lead. And first of all, he beat Sierra Leone twice, which was the horse of the year last year. Once as a 2-year-old in December in a Derby prep race, and then again at the Belmont. But it is rare, very rare, that a horse gets passed and then comes back and passes the horse that passed.
Exactly.
You see horses trying, which you love to see, but often they're gassed and they can't pull it off. Dornick did it in the Remsen, he did it in the Belmont, and then He was passed twice, two different horses in the Haskell, which is a grade one. It's Mama's feature summer race. And it was eye popping. I remember I had dinner with Luis Saez, who was his jockey. And after the dinner, we started watching replays of the races. And I asked him, so what did you think at this point in the race? He's there. I think we lose.
Yes.
So
Clearly.
even, someone like Luis Saez, who won the Derby this year, and as well as the Belmont.
So tell me perspective. The Derby, you had two horses in the Derby last year, and one of which won the Belmont. Tell me about the placement. I was obviously I have horse naivete, but I was so excited when your horse was number one on the sheet, or the placement of or where they would release. Tell me why that's not a good thing.
By the way, I was wrong. Junior Alvarado.
Got it.
The jive. But so they have a draw, and it was on Monday night last year, and they make a big deal out of it. It's a fun event, and there are two post positions you don't want, 1 in 20, and the odds of getting 2 in the Derby are probably greater than the odds of getting 1 in 20. I mean, I was so distraught that.
So Dornick, I thought it was 1 in 10. You got 1 in 20?
1 in 20. Society Man got 20 and Dornick was 1. And at any rate, I don't want to bore the audience, but your chances diminish significantly if you have either one of those posts, never mind both.
Because the placement of where the horses are just not advantageous.
Well, it's too crowded a field, in my humble opinion. And we're a front runner, and we need to get to the front before the first turn. And Mystic Dan, the 3-horse, took a sharp turn to the left and cut us off. And so therefore, we are in the middle of the pack. And horses they're left-handed, they're right-handed. They have preferred running style. And if you make a horse run against his preferred running style, they will underperform because they're not comfortable. Our horse likes it near the front. Sierra Leone likes to close, and other horses like it just off the pace. At any rate, Mystic Dan knew if he was going to have a chance, he had to cut us off, which he did, unfortunately, all too well. And then that put him in a position where he was able to close the deal at the end of the race.
So there is strategy here. If you're a jockey, other horses' patterns, and you're trying to position your horse not only for what your horse wants, but against other people who their pattern.
Yes. So if you were to handicap a race, you're trying to determine the pace of the race. And, you want a Goldilocks, not too fast, depends on your running style, right?
Yes.
So if you're a front runner, you would prefer a more moderate pace where you are in front and then you have plenty in the tank to close the deal.
Yes.
Because at the end of a race, every single horse in the race is slowing down. Just some horses are slowing down a lot faster than other horses.
By nature. Exactly. So question, you started going down this path, and I think this is the most exciting part, at least what I see on TV. Tell me about the day. You're at the Derby, you're at the Preakness, you're there at 11 o'clock, at 7 in the morning. Tell me about the day for our typical owner, or for you, what that day is like all the way up to race time.
It's game day. Well, in the Derby, it was the week.
Of course.
Was something going. We went the preceding Saturday, and there was something going on each and every day. And every morning we would go to the track, and they would close the track for about a half an hour for just the Derby and the Oak contenders. And, the electricity, seeing all these famous horsey people, famous jockeys, famous trainers. It's a neat experience. Doing the walk for the race, that is, you feel like a rock star for 15 minutes. It's just awesome. And then, the day of the race, you're like a little kid with butterflies.
Do all the owners go to the same spot? Is there like an owner's booth or owner's area, or everybody's got different places to go, or it depends on who
Everyone's got their own little routine. And, we're all a little superstitious too. So, depending upon the venue, that spot might look a little different. The Derby's a little different because it's so crowded. You want to be just in case close to the winner's circle.
Winner's circle, yeah.
Because you don't want to get stuck in traffic trying to get there.
Do the owners have preferential treatment? They get better spots, better tickets. You're in there.
They take care of the owners.
Okay.
take care of the owners. But you're better off taking care of yourself, and which, I love Saratoga. We have our tickets for Saratoga. England, I'm a regular there, so I normally have decent credentials.
Yeah. So Preakness last year, you were in the winner's circle. Tell me about this experience. Dornick wins.
I was
Everything's
not in
exciting.
the winner's circle.
Where were you? Well, I mean, so I'm sorry. This is embarrassing for our audience. I apologize to
And
my guest,
you're
Larry.
directionally correct. I was there, but
Okay.
I was rooting. Our horse didn't run. Dornick did not run in the Preakness. But National Treasure, which was no, National Treasure won the year before. But I was rooting for a Starlight horse, and a horse called Seize the Gray won the Preakness. And I'm proud to say Dornick beat that horse twice too. But we were at the
Belmont Circle. Tell me about that experience. And hopefully, because you did win that and you were in the owner's circle, you were there. That's so
at my usual spot. So there's a bank of TVs. So you're in the paddock, and then you go from the paddock to the grandstand, and you go underneath, and there's a bank of TVs near a bunch of betting windows, and it's actually a better view because if you're near the rail, you're kind of somewhat obstructed with this, the big TVs ours has. And I remember, so I'm an Auburn fan, and I was fortunate enough to witness the kick six. And I got so caught up in the moment.
You might need to explain that to our audience.
Auburn beat Alabama on the last play of the game. Alabama was going for a very lengthy field goal to win the game. Instead, Eric Davis caught the ball deep in the end zone and ran it back for 109 yards with no time left to win the game. And it was a very magical moment. If you're an Auburn fan, especially if you're used to as much heartbreak as Auburn is. But at any rate, it was euphoria, keen ice and kick six up until that moment. Two greatest sports experience of my young life. So, but I didn't have the presence of mind to take in the moment. I was so caught up in the moment. I didn't, look around and see all the crazy spectators and the joy. So I said to myself, you know what? I'm not going to allow that to happen should, lightning strike here. And by the way, so Dornick had won a two grade twos. He won the Fountain of Youth to qualify for the Derby. His next race, he underperformed at the Bluegrass, losing to Sierra Leone. And the Derby, he never had a chance. The race was over for him in the first 50 yards. I was rather depressed that night because I'm there. I'm not sure we were the best horse, but we never had a chance.
Because of the placement. Yeah.
Yeah. And, at the Belmont, we're running out of excuses. I still hadn't given up hope, but, if you're going to do it, now's the time to do it. And he got a good post position, number 6. And when he got to the first turn, he's just off Caesar Gray, the Preakness winner. And I'm there. You know what? We're going to win. This is what it looks like. And if we don't win, we're not the best horse. And I can put my head on the pillow. We're a great horse, but not, something super special. But
so is it champagne? It's flour. Does it last long? Is it over in 10 minutes? There's a lot of television casting. The winner's circle is, I imagine, still you might not even be able to remember what it was like.
It happened very fast. There was a lot of joy, excitement. We have a decent sized syndicate. A lot of people were there, a lot of hugging and kissing, broad smiles. Now, it was magical, and it lasted a very, very long time. During the race, I never jumped up and yelling or anything. I'm there just because I knew how much it would mean to the syndicate. You can't take that. There only been 150 some odd, Belmont winners. It's a very special. It was a great moment, and I was able to savor it for quite some time. And maybe 5 years from now, I'll come down from the high.
So tell me about the fashion. You've got everything from we see on TV, the Derby, and you've been over to England as well. Tell me about being an owner, what it means for fashion. Are you doing 2 or 3 fashion changes a day? Or is this just the ladies? And I've seen everything, quite frankly, nowadays, as it relates to fashion, everything goes. You see some kind of odd outfits that they purposely promote.
I would say the big venues all have their personality. The Derby, anything goes there, but it's fun. The hats are sometimes a little over the top. Royal Ascot is just first class all the way. The women are just beautifully dressed, nothing too gaudy or anything like that. It's just very eloquent.
Is there higher security at these events? I would imagine, especially at Royal Ascot, I imagine the royalty's there, the royal family, I think, is
Yeah,
there.
you can, your cell phone, when they do the royal procession, they jam cell phones so no one can use them as a start.
Paparazzi or whatever, yeah.
No, to initiate a bomb,
Wow. I didn't even think about that.
and their box is bulletproof. It's something.
That's a
But
little bit good.
yeah, security, it's like any modern sporting event. I imagine the actual royalty part is, I don't pay too much attention because they draw too many crowds, but it's fun to watch. And believe me, the Brits have pomp and circumstance down. It
I
is so
bet they
much
do.
fun to watch. I like dressing up, now that I'm retired, when I buy sport coats, it's normally, oh, can I wear that racing or not? You can go a little over the top. Girls love it. My daughter loves it. My daughter-in-law loves it. My wife loves it.
It's a big event. I imagine, you probably spend as much as on your wife and your daughter's fashion as you do on the horse, I would imagine.
Well, the hats are the most, yes, the women seem to fret most over the hats. But any rate, they seem to figure it out by the time we get there.
So let's do this. We'll close up. You've been very kind with your time and explaining the industry. I would love to hear your opinion. We've been talking, the thesis of the Retirement Spy is really helping our audience prepare for retirement non-financially. From your perspective, and you've probably had some great insights, give us some insights on your transition from phase one, working hard, to phase two and enjoying retirement. What did you discern? What are the things that you went through to kind of do that preparation?
Well, mine was a journey. So we sold the company when I was 57, had no operational responsibilities when I was 58. Initially, I filled my dance card, I thought about 2/3 between starting a foundation and, the various boards I was on. And then, go on travel and hunt or, golf to augment that. And then eventually got into horse racing. And I also got involved in board governance at my home club. And towards the end, that took up a lot of time, almost too much time. I'll never do that again. But at any rate, it took me
You won't
7
be able to.
years. Huh?
You won't be able to.
Yeah, well, that's right. But it took me 7 years to fully downshift. And I have now succeeded. And my biggest, I like to do a lot of different things, but definitely horse racing has filled a large void. And so I'm very grateful that I have something like that to keep me stimulated and interested, me purpose getting out of bed in the morning. I've seen a lot of my friends who are in similar stage in their life, phase two, and I'm pleased to say, they've all done it slightly differently, but they've all arrived, succeeded. They have a good purpose, and no two journeys look quite the same, and nor do they have to or should they. But if you can find something that, gets you out of bed in the morning, more power to you. Horse racing, don't sell it short. It's not for everybody, but it sure brings a lot of joy and stimulation to you.
Tell you, it's wonderful. I love that you said it took 7 years. Some people think that, okay, I'm retiring June 30th. I've got to have something lined up to figure out what the next stage is. And it's certainly, as we talk, not 7 days of golf. Larry, thank you so much for this podcast interview. You've been a tremendous inspiration, and we hope to maybe have you back again after you win the next couple of derbies, and we'll talk about what it means to be in the Kentucky Circle.
Well, I would love to be back under those circumstances. Odds suggest that's not quite short odds, but we'll see. We're going to try.
Work for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.